Warm up those tires, hit your marks, and let's go racing, boys and girls. Nascar, Indycar, Formula One, Formula E, and NHRA Racing Talk. This is the Championship Racing Network. Now here is your hosts, Steve West and Matt Nicholson, with producer John Myers.
Well, producer John's got things going on at the other gig, so Matt and I are in studio. Without him, we'll plug along just fine, as long as certain computer programs let us do that. We'll give you details on that in a minute. We bring you some unfortunate news we're going to kick off with from the racing world. Toyota trying to fix a major problem with their engines. Don't talk about that much, so that seemed quite newsworthy. Andretti Formula E making up their minds real quick. Red Bull, on the other hand, not making up their minds real quick. Got big controversy from Richmond last week. You might have heard about it. We'll talk about it a little bit more, even though we did mention it and talk about it a pretty good bit on Cross Flags on Wednesday. Got a baby on the way. We'll tell you who. We got a major sponsor that might be on the move, and this could be big. We'll talk about all that and a whole lot more coming up as we get ready to roll on this week's edition of CRN. It's going to go green right after this.
Stay. Network.
All right, let's do this thing here. We want to do a recap of last week, which was a very limited schedule, by the way, and a quick rundown of the schedule, a little bit busier this weekend. And then we want to get into the life of one Scott Bloomquist, who unfortunately we learned yesterday morning passed away. We'll talk about that. Last Saturday, Richmond Raceway Craftsman Truck Series running their final regular season race set the playoff contenders as well. At the end of the race, no new winner. Ty Majeski was able to grab the lead on the final restart with 8 laps to go, held off the rest of the field. That claims his second win in a row this year. Christian Eckes in second place, and with that result, he claimed the regular season title. So that gives him a little bit of boost in the playoff points as well.
Yep.
Taylor Gray third, trailed by Grant Enfinger, Lane Riggs, Tyler Ankrum, Ben Rhodes, Daniel Dye. That's going to come into play. Ty Dillon, Connor Hall in his Truck Series debut. Nice run for him, claimed 10th.
Very good.
As we get into the playoffs, here's your seed order. Your 1 seed's Corey Heim. Then there's Christian Eckes, Ty Majeski, Nick Sanchez, Rajah Caruth, Grant Enfinger, Tyler Ankrum, Tanner Gray, Ben Rhodes. None of those really a surprise.
Nope.
But as we talked about when we were dealing with the weekend schedule last weekend, we told you things could still change on points. Your final driver in is Daniel Dye. We noted that Dye claimed 8th last Saturday evening. Tanner Gray couldn't do any better than 12th, and that was enough for Dye to vault over Tanner Gray for that final playoff spot. Missed it by that much.
A fraction.
And then it was an all NASCAR weekend. Cup Series taken to Richmond Raceway as well Sunday evening. Race went into overtime, and only 3 caution flags during the race proper, okay? 2 of them were for stage breaks. And then you had a late race caution when you had a deal with Ryan Preece and Ricky Stenhouse Jr. That puts us into overtime. And when they finally got to the point where they got a white flag, Joey Logano was out front. Austin Dillon could close going into the corners, but Logano had the advantage coming off of the turn, so Dillon pulled an Austin Dillon. He ran a bonsai run into turn 3 on the final lap, smacked Logano's back bumper, spins him out, but Denny Hamlin was able to take advantage. He was able to get under both. He got his nose out front, and then Dillon, avoiding Logano at the same time, turns into Hamlin. That allows Dillon, who came into the race sitting 32nd in the points, mind you, to claim the win in an unlikely playoff spot in big-time upset. Dillon wins. Hamlin slides across the finish line sideways for second, trailed by Tyler Reddick, Bubba Wallace, Ross Chastain, Christopher Bell, Kyle Larson, Carson Hocevar, Chase Elliott, Daniel Suarez in the top 10. Now, I say he slides across the finish line. He's actually credited with second place because, and again, this is NASCAR throwing caution flags at weird times.
Yep.
Denny Hamlin actually crossed the finish line in 4th. Tyler Reddick finished second, crossing the finish line. But because they threw the caution flag with Logano spinning and all the other stuff that we just detailed, they threw a caution flag, and it just so happened that Denny Hamlin, they determined, was second when they threw the caution flag. Okay. Whatever. 2 wins for Ryan Blaney, single wins for Tyler Reddick, Chase Elliott, Brad Keselowski, Alex Bowman, Joey Logano, Daniel Suarez, Austin Cindric, Austin Dillon, right? We'll get back to it. In on points, Martin Truex Jr., Ty Gibbs, Bubba Wallace. That was Sunday evening. Keep that in mind, okay? Thing about it, things are a bit tight at the bottom of the standings. Ty Gibbs, 15 points over Bubba Wallace at the cut line. Bubba Wallace, 3 points over the cut line. Chris Buescher and Ross Chastain tied at 3 points under the cut line. Chase Briscoe fading quickly. As of last Sunday night, 99 points under the cut line. And again, fading quickly. This will all change. We'll get back to it in a bit.
That it will.
This weekend, a bit busier. 2 races when it comes to the slate this for today when it comes to this race. We begin in Michigan. Xfinity Series running the not Cabo Wabo 250. It is the Cabo Wabo 250. Want to make that perfectly clear. Inside joke. Airs on USA and MRN Radio starting at 3:30 p.m. Eastern, 2:30 p.m. Central Time. Don't you regret having taken that drink at that point?
Very much so.
Sheldon
Very
Creed.
much so.
Sheldon Creed, by the way, grabbed the pole yesterday afternoon for this afternoon's race. Later on tonight, Indycar swinging back into action, taken to the Worldwide Tech Raceway at Gateway for the Bommarito Auto Group 500. That'll air on USA and IRN Radio, 6 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Central Time. Sunday's action leads off with the Cup Series. They're running the Firekeepers Casino 400 at Michigan International Speedway. That'll air on USA and MRN Radio. Begins 2:30 p.m. Eastern, 1:30 p.m. Central Time. By the way, real quick, Scott McLaughlin claims the pole for tonight's race in IndyCar. This is the second year in a row he's claimed the pole. And the thing about it is last year he had to take a grid spot penalty because they changed the engine on his car, so he didn't actually get to start on the pole. Looks like he'll actually get to start on the pole there tonight. That'll be a nice change for him.
Because there was quite a few others that got grid spot penalties as well.
But again, Cup Series tomorrow, 2:30 p.m. Eastern, 1:30 p.m. Central Time. Final event of the weekend will be the NHRA hitting the track at Brainerd International Raceway. Lucas Oil NHRA Nationals. Finals are going to air live on Fox. Starts 3 p.m. Eastern, 2 p.m. Central Time. Formula One Craftsman Truck Series are off this weekend. Okay, as promised, we'll get back to the whole Austin Dillon, Joey Logano, Denny Hamlin, NASCAR kerfuffle.
Yep.
But we need to take the time to do this because the racing world has lost a big name and a big guy, a real big guy in a lot of ways. Mooresburg, Tennessee was the location when the sad news came down yesterday morning, that a legendary dirt track racer, Scott Bloomquist, died in a small aircraft accident not too far from his home. It was a little bit after 7 a.m. local time Friday morning, and it left many in the racing world and his fans very shocked. Bloomquist, to give you some history on him, born November 14th in the small town of Fort Dodge, Iowa. He got his start in racing, though, through a chance deal that was set up by his father. His father was an airline pilot for a company called Air Cal. When he was stationed in California, and while there, the elder Bloomquist got invited to a local stock car race by a coworker to watch him race. Intrigued, Scott's father, after the race, bought a car, motor, and some old tires and decided to give it a shot. Oh, those were the days, weren't they? Mm-hmm. He decided, however, that flying was his true calling, so instead of selling off the car, he gave it to his son, Scott. Scott worked on the car a bit, and in August of 1980, got into his first race at Corona Raceway in Corona, California. Picked up on things quick. In the 1982 season, not only did he win several races, he won the track championship that year. He then got a picture of a car that a gentleman by the name of Charlie Schwartz had won the 1982 Dirt Track World title with, and he set about building a car just like it. Got into a $4,000 to win race at Chula Vista. Not only won the race, but he lapped the field twice. His father, knowing the car was worth a good bit of money at that point in time, wanted to sell it, but Scott convinced him to let him pay for the car himself by being willing and volunteering to work at the family's newly acquired Tennessee farm to help pay for it, and by continuing to race. He found out about a track in Kingsport, Tennessee, which had begun a $2,500 feature every Friday. He would continue to win, continue to put his winnings into paying off his father and improving the car. In 1988, he headed to a track that you might have heard of, Eldora Speedway.
Yep.
Raced in a very prestigious dirt track race called the World 100, where he passed three-time race champion Jeff Purvis and got the win. Some people felt that it was maybe rookie luck or a fluke. Well, he returned over the next 2 years and proved that it wasn't. He claimed the pole for the race in 1989, and then coming back in 1990, he won it again. He would join the Have a Tampa Racing Series in 1993, won the titles in 1994 and 1995, and looked like he was headed to do a three-peat in 1996 until he got penalized all of his points for hitting another car under caution. We're going to talk about a severe penalty for Austin Dillon. How about that one? Mm-hmm. In his time in that series, he won 60 races. Second most by any driver during that same period of time, 18. The man was good. After that situation, though, he decided to take some time away from racing, got into reading, got into self-improvement. When he came back, he had a new look to his car, and he had a new number. Switched the car number from 18 to 0. He rejoined the Have a Tampa Series, which was now renamed the Extreme Dirt Car Series in 2003, claimed another title before he then moved on to the World of Outlaws Late Model Series 2004. He won a title there. Went on to claim the RPM Racing News 2006 Driver of the Year award by winning the Dream, the Topless 100, the Scorcher 100, Race Fest, Dixie Shootout, and the Cedar Lake Nationals all in the same year. Just those races alone netted him $250,000. Forget the rest of his racing he did. Good grief.
Yeah.
In his Lucas Oil Late Model Dirt Racing Series career, he got 94 wins, 65 poles in 497 races, claiming 3 titles. World of Outlaws Late Model Competition in 241 starts, claimed another 33 wins with 7 poles and a title. He did try top-level stock car racing, only getting 3 starts in the ARCA Menard Series in 1991. Tried it again in 2013, ran the Craftsman Truck Series race at Eldora, then called the Midsummer Classic. Started at 21st, finished 25th, 2 laps down. Never could get a regular ride there, and he had problems in that Midsummer Classic.
Yeah,
that truck was just never right.
He tried to run the front with no sway bar on the front end of it, and you have to run sway bars on the front of those trucks.
Yeah,
and it was so out of whack. He never could get within the same zip code.
I mean, it doesn't matter how much talent you have. If you don't have the right car, you can't overcome it.
Yep.
He also started a group called Team Zero Race Cars. Originally, when he started to race, he was taking chassis from well-known builders and then modifying it with some of the tricks that he had learned over the years. And then he started this company because he decided he could build chassis better himself. He'd sell them to a select clientele. That company continues on to this day. He got inducted into the National Dirt Late Model Hall of Fame in 2002, and it's hard to believe that right now is the only Hall of Fame he's credited with. Like his father, Bloomquist liked to fly, had different planes over the years, and it was a personal vintage plane that he was flying Friday morning when it crashed near his home in Mooresburg, Tennessee, killing him. Leaves behind his daughter, Ariel Rouse Bloomquist. Scott Bloomquist, 60 years old. Definitely will be missed. And I can guarantee, I know the name, but I can guarantee you with your background, you know a lot more about this man than I could ever hope.
He's one of those that you could say is was on the level of Dale Earnhardt. You either loved him or you hated him.
Mm-hmm.
Because he carried his own swagger. He walked to the beat of his own drum. He did not care. But there's a lot of people within the dirt racing community and the dirt racing world that'll tell you that when it comes to the deep down level, you don't get in front of or talk to a nicer person. As borrowing a phrase from my grandfather, he's one of those people that you could say is smarter than what he knows to do with. What he knows to do with. Because he's had those chassis that he would take, and like you stated right there, he would take them and modify them.
Mm-hmm.
He took what he had from all of those chassis, combined it into one, and that's where Team Zero Race Car started from. Now, to be within that family of Team Zero Race Cars with Bloomquist chassis, one, you better bring your checkbook, because you're getting, and I don't mean that in a derogatory way at all, you're getting top level equipment.
And you're going to pay for it.
And you're going to pay for it.
Sure.
And
but you get what you pay for in this case.
Exactly.
Yeah. Okay.
You get what you pay for in this case. And seeing with the time we're at, if we need to take a break, I can come back.
No, go ahead.
Oh, okay. Well, because you got what you got. And there's someone I know in Alabama that had one of those chassis. He said the deal was that he had with Scott, hey, go with it, run with it, learn with it.
Mm-hmm.
But if you learn something that I don't know, bring it back to me and share it with me. That is what made him what he is within the dirt chassis building community.
Yeah.
Okay. Well respected, but was that level of Dale Earnhardt, and you either loved him or you hated him. Yeah.
But you had to respect him. Whether you hated him or not, you had to respect him.
When you saw that black hauler rolling through the gate, you knew you were up against it. It's about to get real, and you're going to have stiff competition within the field.
Yeah. And if you're a fan, if you knew what you were looking at, you knew you were in for a show.
Exactly. And then it's probably 7, 8, 9 years ago. There was a 3-year stretch there where I would go down to the National 100 at East Alabama Motor Speedway in Phoenix City. Well, it just so happened that it would be on the same weekend as the World of Outlaw World Finals in Charlotte. The World Finals ended on Saturday night. The main National 100 for the super late models was on Sunday. And it's $20,000 to $25,000 to win on any given year. Well, there would be one hauler spot left open in the middle of the infield at East Alabama. Nobody parked there because that was Scott's spot. And it could be during the middle of preliminary races on Sunday. Here comes that black hauler right off of Highway 80. Coming down through the pit area, coming in, turn around, unload. Car drops right off the trailer. Would go in, put the car in the show through qualifying, come from the back and win one year. But this is, and I want to tread carefully and tread softly when I say this.
Sure.
For the dirt racing community versus the asphalt community, this loss right here, I would say, is close to the same level as losing Dale Earnhardt.
Okay.
He's that type of a figure within the dirt racing community, and it's going to be a big blow, but the community will carry on.
Yeah.
We'll carry on.
Absolutely will. And everybody should honor him. And at this point in time, I didn't even think about going back and looking back at it when it came time to start making our National Motorsports Press Hall of Fame nominations. If I had thought about it, that name should have been mentioned, and I will not make that mistake again next year. And I'm certain that I will not be the only person to overlook Scott Bloomquist when it comes to the NMPA Hall of Fame nominations for next year. Mm-hmm. No doubt about it. The fact that he is only in one,
but
that's about to change.
He's in the elite one though.
Yeah, he's certainly in the elite one for what he did, but he deserves to be in many, many more. Scott Bloomquist, 60 years old. He will be missed.
Racing Network.
Well, other than Scott Bloomquist, I guess we start with the biggest news of the week, shall we? We detailed this a little bit also on Cross Flags on Wednesday, but it's just too big. So we're going to break it down in order of how this happened, because Wednesday during Cross Flags is when the penalty broke. So we didn't have the chance to even break everything down at that point in time. But let's go back to last Sunday. Austin Dillon ticking off both Joey Logano and Denny Hamlin by playing pinball off both the 22 and the 11 cars. And Dillon said after the race, quote, "I don't know, man. It's been 2 years, and this is the first car I've had a shot to win with. I felt like with 2 to go, we were the fastest car. Obviously, we had to have a straightaway. Wrecked the guy." Quote, "Wrecked the guy." I hate to do that, but sometimes you just got to do it.
No.
Well,
no, you don't.
Yeah. Again, this is chronological order, okay? Joey Logano wasn't too happy about it. He said after the race it was a chicken blank move. There's no doubt about it. He was 4 car lengths back, not even close. I don't know if it was 4, but he was not on the back bumper going into turn 3. Not even close. Then he wrecks the 11, Hamlin, to go along with it. I mean, I get it. You do bump and run. I've done that, but he just drove through me. It's ridiculous. And we've seen this before. That was an Austin Dillon move that he pulled on Eric Almirola to claim his Daytona 500 win.
Correct.
He didn't just bump Eric Almirola out of the way. He ran through Eric Almirola.
Yeah.
Hamlin added to it on Sunday evening, quote, "There are no penalties for rough driving." So it opened up the opportunity for Austin to just do whatever he wants. "I got hooked in the right rear again. I was just minding my own business, and he hooked me in the right rear, put me in the fence. I don't know. The record book won't care about what happened. He's going to get credited with the win, but obviously he's not going far in the playoffs because you've got to pay your dues back on stuff like that. But it was worth it because he jumped almost 20 positions in points, so I understand it. There's no ill will there. I just hate that I was a part of it. I understand it, but I don't agree with it," he concluded. So let's deal with that first. Okay? Bump and run we've seen.
Thousands of times.
And I've seen bump and runs done poorly last Sunday night. Dale Earnhardt, Terry Labonte, Bristol. Think about that one for a minute. Look it up if you can't remember it.
Rusty Wallace, Jeff Gordon at Bristol.
Sure.
Several.
Richmond's been a home of a few as well. But, and I asserted this on my weekday gig on Thursday when the penalties came down Thursday morning. I said, as a race fan and as a sports fan, there are just certain things that take time to develop. But as a fan, you go, okay, this is something rather almost routine in some ways, but when it's performed well, it's like sports art.
Right.
If you're watching a baseball game and you watch a nice shortstop to second base to first base double play, double plays happen all the time, sometimes 3, 4, 5 of them in a game. But when it's done right and it's done well, it's nice, and you get that anticipation out of it because you see it developing. Mm-hmm. Watching a football game, high school, college, pro, doesn't matter. Flea flicker takes time because quarterback gets the snap, hands off to the running back, sets himself up, running back runs up towards the line, turns around, throws the ball or pitches the ball back to the quarterback, who then throws it probably deep down the field. Takes time to develop. You see it coming. You have the anticipation of it. When it's done well, you appreciate it. If you're a race fan, you know a good bump and run coming. You can sense it. You can feel it. And when it's done nice and that trailing car just taps him, moves that lead car up and out of the racing lane, and he's able to dive under and go take the lead or go grab the win, that's pretty. Last Sunday night was ugly.
I don't think ugly is the right word.
Yeah, we could go worse, but we're not going to because of our particular avenue this morning.
True.
You know, but Denny Hamlin was right. To a certain extent, knowing at that point in time we hadn't really had ramifications for this, Austin Dillon didn't have anything to lose. And he gets into the playoffs as of Monday morning, jumping from 32nd to 13th in the seed order. I mean, that's huge.
Yeah, it is. Very huge.
Well.
Or was it?
Yeah. Usually NASCAR waits until Tuesday, sometimes Wednesday, but usually Tuesday to hand down any penalties. Well, Tuesday came and went, and we didn't get any word. Wednesday started rolling by at a pretty good clip without word, right up until about, I think it was 4 p.m. Eastern, 3 p.m. Central Time when they dropped the hammer. And it was a massively large sledgehammer that dropped as well. And like I said, it dropped right while we were doing the Crossed Flags podcast.
Yep.
Go back and watch it. It's a 45-minute Crossed Flags podcast. I want to say it was at about the 35-minute mark-ish.
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we still had a little ways to go before we got to the end of the podcast. But, yeah, it came down towards the end of it. And we started to realize how big this was going to be. Now, the easy to take part of this is the fact that NASCAR has this rule that if you win on race day, you keep the win. And that stood. Austin Dillon is credited officially with 5 career wins, at least 2 of them by running over and or through the leader to get to them. But either way, he's got credit for the Richmond win. That trophy for Richmond last Sunday now sits in his house, in his trophy room. Mm-hmm. That will not be taken away. But the win does not count towards any playoff eligibility, meaning he is not the 13 seed in the playoffs anymore. If he happens to get in through another avenue at Michigan, Daytona, or Darlington, the win at Richmond will not count during the playoffs either. So he's got to get into the playoffs through another route. Points ain't going to do it. Sorry, 3 races, and mathematically he's eliminated.
Right.
But he still can win his way in, presuming he does it cleanly, which is, for Austin Dillon, a fairly big presumption. But again, the Richmond win, while he's credited with it for his career, does not count in the playoffs. In addition to stripping the playoff eligibility, NASCAR dropping him back from the playoffs, once again, where he was the 13 seed, he drops back to 31st. And you say, well, wait a minute. He was 32nd going in. Yes. Even after being docked 25 championship points, he does still get the points for the win at Richmond, minus 25. And because of everything being so jumbled up back there, he actually did move up from 32nd to 31st in the standings. Both driver and car owner suffered that 25-point penalty. And maybe more notably, his spotter, Brendan Benish. Brendan's going to be sidelined for 3 races for comments he made over the team radio. And you think, what the heck did he say? Yeah. In case you missed it, Benish was getting excited, and I understand this. I mean, you know, you get excited, final lap is unfolding, all the actions, turns 3 and 4 are unfolding, and monitoring the radio as NASCAR and everybody does and can, Benish is heard yelling clearly over the radio, wreck him, among other comments. Now, neither Austin Dillon nor Richard Childress claim to have either heard or understood him in the heat of the moment. I don't know. I'll take their word for it because I don't know them well enough to know about that. I mean, I get it. Heat of the moment, you're doing what Austin Dillon's doing. Yeah, maybe you're not paying attention to all the jabber going on the radio.
Right.
If you're Richard Childress and you're the owner and you're watching your car, in this case, the 3 car, going for a win, even though you have the headset on, yeah, maybe you're not paying that close of attention to it either. I don't know. But either way, NASCAR felt that this set a bad precedent for a spotter to even go so far as to say those words over the radio. So they sidelined him, suspending him for 3 races.
Here's my problem with this part. It set a bad precedent. Have we not listened to radio transmissions over the past 40 years? Because at some point during any given race, you will have a spotter tell their driver, if they get ran into, run over that, you know what, hit him back.
Using whatever colorful metaphor they want to use.
That, by default, that is the same thing as saying wreck him.
Sure, yeah.
But I see the difference in between if it's for 15th versus the lead. I see that part.
And I will say this, too. I mean, here's the deal. This whole ruling is precedent setting.
And they better follow it.
Yeah, you've set, NASCAR, a new precedent. You've set the bar here now. Before it was down here. I mean, we talked about Dale Earnhardt and Terry Labonte and, Rusty Wallace, all these other situations from years past where we have seen bump and runs go bad, which turn into spinouts or just flat out wrecking a guy.
Yeah.
We've seen it. You've done nothing in the past. The bar was here. Now, from here, with this, the bar's up here. You can't drop it back down anymore.
You can't.
Because at that point in time, you give every Austin Dillon fan, every Richard Childress Racing fan a chance to go, excuse me, what happened here? Why wasn't the bar put here? So this goes back to what we have been talking about so much this year and really for the past couple of years. Consistency.
Okay.
Now that you've set the bar here, NASCAR, make sure that that is only as low as you go and you go up from there.
That is true. But neither Dillon nor Childress claim to have heard him. Okay. Here's where we take notes on this class. They didn't hear him. But SMT data that was revealed and made public, the last 2 laps of the race were laps 407 and 408. It went 8 laps overtime. Okay. Lap 407, you look at them at the same point of the racetrack at the exit of turn 4. Lap 407, Austin Dillon's steering input was at a negative 3.7. Now, negative 3.7 means he's got it turned 3 degrees to the right while the car is in pitch going around the straightaway because the front straightaway at Richmond's curved. That's why I say going around.
Sure.
Lap 408 coming to the checkers, we have a 36.2 degree change from negative 3.7 to positive 33.9. You're cranking the wheel, but you didn't hear him say wreck him. No, I'm not buying that. That's garbage. That's a heaping pile of garbage with you know what mixed into it. I don't buy it. But then you got Childress. Pop is so proud of you, buddy. Shut up. Shut up. I mean, and I'm still baffled as to why Ricky Stenhouse and Ryan Preece wrecked and they're not racing for position. Let's make that clear. They're not racing for position, but they decide to wreck each other and put the race into overtime position. Okay. One, if Austin Dillon does not, let me choose my word carefully. If he doesn't try to wake up from a nap, that's the G-rated version of it.
Okay.
If he doesn't try to wake up from his nap and fire so late in the box on the restart and he gets a clean restart and gets into one, he wins the race cleanly.
Isn't this, though, and I'm going to ask this because I've never been impressed with Austin Dillon's restart abilities.
It's terrible.
That's something he's never been good at.
And I'm not a fan of said driver that started behind him or beside him, but you've got arguably, and I will argue with you on it, you've got arguably the 2 best restarters in the series right there beside you and right there behind you.
Sure, yeah.
But you decide to take a nap, and Joey Logano beats you cleanly, and it exits off of 2 and clears you cleanly. But yet you've got to go into F-16 mode, bonsai kamikaze mode, because you don't care. I got to wreck him. I got to win. Actually, you nearly cost yourself the win. But you had to go retaliation mode just to give yourself the win.
And in the end, you did cost yourself the win in a fairly important manner in the fact that, you got the trophy at the house, but you're not in the playoffs, which is what you were attempting to do anyway.
And here's where, true. But here's where I've got to back up and say, okay, yeah, agree with you. They set that precedent. You've got that bar because they are freeing up a playoff spot for a driver that's driving their tail off every single weekend. They're freeing that playoff spot for somebody that will go compete instead of being bounced in round 1.
Yeah. And that's the other side of it here. what Denny Hamlin said after the race, basically, was the warning shot that if Austin Dillon had remained in the playoffs, he wasn't getting out of the round of 16. There's pretty good opportunity he wasn't going to get out of the round of 16 anyway. I mean, based upon the performance of the 3 car this year, again, came into the Richmond race sitting 32nd in points. There's nothing in there that tells us that he has got anything really going towards getting out of the round of 16 out of that first 3 races.
Yeah, because when you have Bristol to end the round of 16, yeah,
it's a fantastic chance of payback right there.
Yeah,
it just kind of told me that both Denny Hamlin and probably Joey Logano, even though they're not the greatest of friends either, probably would have had a nice little coalition going to ensure that the 3 car was not going to make it out.
And they probably still will.
Well, yeah. I mean, we all know what they say about payback, right?
Yep.
Joey Logano himself is going to have to pay out because not what happened on the track, but what happened after the race on pit road. We'll talk about that. We'll talk about the reaction after the penalties and the fallout, and kind of give you a playoff refresher, okay? All that next.
We will be right back with more on the Championship Racing Network. Fuel only. Go, go, go. We're back to the Championship Racing Network.
More penalties. One more specifically. After being spun out and finally ending the race, Joey Logano very upset, understandably, and he got down onto pit road, dropped the car down to the inside lane, got to Dillon's pit stall, and did a burnout lasting 1.5 seconds, 2 seconds. I mean, it was real short. But the problem is that with fans, crew members, family members of the drivers, and the crew already milling about, NASCAR determined it to be a dangerous situation, and based upon some similar penalties from the past, they fined Joey Logano $50,000. I don't think he'll appeal that. I'm not even sure that it's an appealable thing.
Well, I'll say this. It should be appealable for the simple fact of there were, let's use the term, there were civilian credentialed people, non-official, non-team member people that were crossing the pit box line to go out to the front stretch to celebrate. They couldn't wait while cars are still moving.
Yeah. We've seen Formula One basically kind of threaten some race promoters of some pretty big name races, not the least of which was Canada.
And
talking about how people were able to get onto the track, onto the racing surface while cars were still on the racing surface. This is the same thing.
By technicality, it's the same thing because that is a hot pit road.
Yeah.
When you have a hot pit road, you're not supposed to, if you're a non-team member or a non-official, you're not supposed to be able to cross the white line behind the pit boxes, not the pit wall.
And in some ways, this might actually be a blessing in disguise for NASCAR and a whole lot of other series, by the way, who have been, over the course of time, getting more and more lax and allowing things like this to be able to take place.
Extremely lax.
You know, now maybe we tighten things back up again.
It needs to be because you had two people, and I'm going to call them out. You had Dillon's wife, and you had Dillon's wife's bestie, which she is the wife of the tire carrier.
Okay. So crew member.
Trying to get out to the front stretch carrying not one, not two, but 3 infant children.
That shouldn't be allowed.
Why?
Should not be allowed.
This is we're gonna call this rated G day because I'm gonna catch myself on this one too. Why in the Sam Hill are they allowed to get on the front stretch with infants, let alone have an official escorting them out there when the official knows different?
Yeah, or should know. I'll say that. Should know different.
And then he's coming down to stop. They walk out in front of him. That's why he stopped. And when you get a heat of the moment and he's trying to get to where he needs to go when he spins off, then you got Joe Bob official running down trying to point like he's got some authority. That's a lax policy on the series.
Yeah.
Because that pit road is not supposed to go into a different state until the cars are at a complete stop.
Yep. To no one's surprise, Richard Childress Racing got out on social media right after the penalty was handed down, expressed their displeasure with the outcome. They released a statement that read in part, quote, Richard Childress Racing is very disappointed in NASCAR's penalty against the number 3 team. We do not agree with the decision that was made and plan to appeal. Thing about their appeal is this. They're only appealing the ruling against Austin Dillon.
Shocker.
They said they have no plans to appeal the suspension levied on the spotter, Ben Esch. Okay. Knock yourself out.
You have no clear path to win this.
Yeah, I don't see it. I don't either. But I will say this, and in listening to podcasts and looking these things up, I can back this up, that there's a lot of truth to what both Denny Hamlin and Brad Daugherty had to say, in the fact that there's quite a bit on the line here, more than just a playoff spot, money-wise. When it comes to this appeal, we noted he went from 32nd in the points and in the playoffs as the 13th seed right after Richmond to, after the penalty, back out of the playoffs, sitting 31st in standings. When he got to talking about it on his Actions Detrimental podcast this week, Denny Hamlin said the difference is, quote, probably about $2 million and what the charter will get paid, unquote. Brad Dougherty, co-owner of JTG Dougherty Racing and NBC Sports, a NASCAR commentator, said of the same thing, quote, I think it's a little more, maybe $2.5 million. So it's huge. And Dougherty added that this penalty is a, quote, very, very, very hard penalty. This is going to hit RCR pretty substantially in their pocketbook because we're always trying to figure out a way to create a positive balance in our checkbooks. This could be multiple millions of dollars in losses based upon this penalty alone. Unquote.
I don't see how it's that much in a loss from the simple fact of I've never seen Richmond pay that much to win.
They're going on more the long term of where he could end up in the final standings when all is said and done. They're looking at potential earnings over the course of the rest of the year based upon being in the playoffs and the possibility of what he could have maybe done once he got in.
Well, if he was just drove with his head screwed on, he probably wouldn't have had that big of a hit.
Well, there you go.
You know?
And here's the thing about it. Dougherty may have some other problems of his own. If reports from Sports Business Journal are correct, Kroger, longtime sponsor of JTG Dougherty Racing on the number 47 for the past several years, they might be moving. And sticking within NASCAR, too. I mean, we've heard a lot of these sponsors that seem to be willing to say, you know what? We're going to take our sponsorship dollars. We're going to go elsewhere. Home Depot was one of those many years ago. Kroger wants to stay. And that tells me that they feel like their NASCAR sponsorship is working, and that's great. RFK Racing, according to Sports Business Journal, is the leader in the clubhouse to grab them. SBJ reported that Kroger's been talking to several teams about shifting their sponsorship for 2025 and beyond. And part of that might be a little bit of uncertainty within the organization of JTG Dougherty. Reports have Tad Geschechter having several ties with Joe Gibbs Racing, and due to that, might actually be selling off his portion of the number 47 car as part of that ownership shakeup. SBJ reports said that they, quote, that they could not confirm a deal that has been signed, but those reportedly, quote unquote, in the know, say a deal between Kroger and RFK could be announced literally at any time. Now, there's speculation in there. And I hate to play on that, but SBJ has generally been a very, very trustworthy, reliable source. Unlike another one we're going to talk about in a bit.
Yeah.
So I tend to believe that there's smoke here if there's not a big fire. Even if we don't have jumping flames, there's smoke here, and it should be talked about. And here's the deal. JTG Dougherty loses Kroger. That is a massive financial hit to that small one-car operation.
If they lose Kroger, they essentially have nothing but NOS energy drink.
And that ain't going to be enough.
But if memory serves me correct, they just recently re-signed Stenhouse.
They did.
So,
I mean, this is all good. This is all based upon Geschechter? Seems odd.
I think he's got some form of a stake within Kroger. Is one. I think.
Could be. I mean, you got to look at it. Sponsorship of this size could be very big for a team that has been openly thinking about expanding out to 3 full-time Cup cars. Kroger sponsorship with some of the auxiliary deals that would come along with it. It would go a long way towards making that dream become a reality sooner rather than later. They've been talking about this 60-car project here for a while. They'd have to go buy a charter. Otherwise, they're stuck in the position of having to qualify on time every time they want to put the car in the race. So that does kind of blunt that some. But, yeah, it would be huge. So it's as big a bonus for an RFK, who, again, has been thinking about going back out to 3 full-time cars, as much as it would hurt JTG Dougherty.
It would very much hurt JTG for sure. But from being... See, here's the thing that gripes me with charter. It's not so much as about a starting spot in the race unless you get into your bigger shows like Daytona, Indianapolis, Talladega, stuff like that. It's not so much as about that. It's about grabbing the extra money for getting guaranteed money. Because if you're a non-charter car, you're not guaranteed that money from the end of the race.
Exactly.
All right. This was just touch and go with me.
Yeah.
I mean,
We'll be keeping an eye on it.
I don't know.
We'll keep an eye on it as the story tends to work its way through the whole process. We'll find out what happens. Legacy MC out there not having the season they were hoping for. Last week we talked about how things are changing up at the front office. Things on the driver's seats appear to be a little bit more steady with the news that Eric Jones has been signed to a contract extension. He will remain in the 43 car through at least the 2026 season. This already is Jones' fourth year in the car. He joined it in 2021 when it was Richard Petty Motorsports. He's a three-time Cup Series winner, two of them in the prestigious Southern 500 at Darlington Raceway. And since 2021, the team saw Maury Gallagher join as co-owner, made it Petty GMS Racing, and then Jimmy Johnson came on board, and that facilitated the switch not only to Toyota, but the name change to Legacy MC, which was supposed to play off the 7 titles won by each Richard Petty and Jimmy Johnson. But this has been a down year. Legacy MC in their first year with Toyota decided not to align themselves with Joe Gibbs Racing, instead going it alone with Toyota Racing Development. See the results so far. Eric Jones sits 28th in points. He's got one top 10 finish on the season, and that was all the way back the beginning of the year, the Daytona 500, when he placed 8th. He's also missed 2 races due to a back injury he sustained in a crash at Talladega. He does have the waiver, so if he could claim a win in the next 3 races, he could be in the playoffs. But other than Talladega, I know he's got Darlington, and he does well, tends to do well there. But I based upon the performance that I've seen so far this year, and we saw him at Darlington earlier this year, I'm not seeing it.
Nope. There's not enough that's been seen out of the club, let's call them that, on a consistent week-to-week basis for me to even think that he would be a threat again at the Southern 500.
Yeah. I mean, Jimmy Johnson's going to run, 9 races this year?
Yeah, I think he's got 3 more that he's running.
And you and I are in a couple of different fantasy leagues. But I look at that 84. And there was at the beginning of the year, I would have said, Jimmy Johnson in a nicely prepped TRD Toyota Camry? Yeah, I'll take a waiver on that, and I'll take a shot at that.
Mm-hmm.
I don't have enough confidence to even take a chance on a 7-time champion with 83 career wins on a fantasy league team.
Nope.
I have that little confidence right now in what Legacy's got going on.
Correct.
Speaking of Toyota, they've got problems themselves. Toyota Racing Development finds themselves in a weird situation. They've been having to try to explain a rash of engine failures that have been plaguing Cup Series arm of the operation. Tyler Gibbs, the newly instated GM of TRD, no relation to Joe, talked to media at Richmond last weekend, said that they feel finally they got a handle on the problem that caused, for example, Martin Truex Jr.'s blown engine there, marked the 5th Toyota engine failure since June. Very uncommon. Gibbs talked to Racer.com, said, quote, "If we didn't beforehand, we certainly now have a concern with our valve springs. The root cause seems to be some inconsistency in the quality of our valve springs, and we're working closely with our suppliers to correct these issues." He also added, quote, "We sent a TRD fire team," his words, not mine, "from our Costa Mesa, California engine shop to make tuning updates to all of our engines, headed to Michigan this weekend. We are confident that this remediation step will give us the durability margin that we need. Our team, partners, including our drivers, remaining tremendously supportive." Well, of course they do. What are they going to do? Change car makers in the middle of the year? Good luck with that. But yeah, we don't hear about this. We don't hear about this much anymore. It used to be valve springs were a fairly consistent thing, and blown engine, you're like, valve spring. Nowadays, that's a pretty rare thing. To get an entire batch and not realize it until it's too late.
Hey, it can't happen.
And we think that that's what it has been at TRD.
Don't touch that dial. The Championship Racing Network will be right back.
Looking for a new ride? Landing?
tires and 2 cans of fuel, and we're back to more racing action on the Championship Racing Network.
So we've been watching this situation here as we get into hour number 2. Steve West, Matt Nicholson here. Producer John not with us this weekend. Maybe next week. We've been watching this situation where Stewart-Haas Racing is about to turn into Haas factory team next year. Tony's bowing out of the whole thing. They're selling, reportedly, 3 charters. One has been sold already to Front Row Motorsports. The other 2, I think we're waiting on the charter agreement. We'll get back to that. But we've been trying to figure out who's going to be driving. We found out a couple of weeks ago Cole Custer is moving back up into the Cup Series. He'll take over the one lone Cup Series car that they're admitting to having right now. And they've said it'll be the number 41. Okay. Who's going to call the shots? We know Rodney Childers has already committed to go elsewhere, Spire Motorsports. But the other crew chiefs within Stewart-Haas, did they stick around? Apparently not. Calling the shots for Cole Custer will be a gentleman by the name of Aaron Kramer. Aaron Kramer is going to move over to Haas from RFK Racing, where he's currently the lead engineer for Chris Buescher on the number 17 Ford Mustang Dark Horse. He's been with RFK Racing since 2016, started off as their electrical and data engineer for the Xfinity Series efforts before moving up to the Cup side of the garage in 2019, initially serving as the secondary racing engineer on the 6 car before sliding over to the 17 car in 2021. He was the lead engineer for Buescher at Bristol in September of 22 when Buescher got his first win. He's helped the team claim 3 more wins, all of them last season since then. And that means not only will all 4 current Stewart-Haas Racing Cup Series drivers be gone from the organization next year, so apparently will all 4 crew chiefs, unless one of them accepts a demotion, I guess, to the Xfinity. At this time, Ryan Preece is the only Cup driver at Stewart-Haas Racing that doesn't know what he's going to be doing next year. And as for the crew chiefs, we noted Rodney Childers going to Spire Motorsports to take the 7 car on in 2025, but we don't know what the others are going to be doing. I mean, Drew Blickensderfer is no, sad shakes when it comes to being a crew chief. He's been in and around it for a while and has had success.
Yeah.
One would think that he'd be able to find a gig fairly soon.
Right, she should.
And he's not the only one, just to let you know. So, yeah, this is a weird situation. We're keeping an eye on it.
Yep.
And then there's from the whole what were you thinking folder, Callig Racing. And I like Callig Racing. I think Matt Callig has built himself really, really cool thing. But what the heck is he thinking when it comes to AJ Allmendinger?
I don't know if it's him or if it's Chris Rice.
Whoever it is, this is weird. This is just flat weird. Okay? The good part of this is you've decided to promote AJ Allmendinger to the Cup Series full time. Again, we ask what were you thinking because he was full-time in 2023, you might remember. They demoted him to full-time in Xfinity Series action this year. Why? I don't know. And Allmendinger's taken it. I mean, he's been with Callig since 2019. He signed on initially for 5 races in the Xfinity Series, got his first win in that stint, remained a part-timer for them in 2020 before moving to full-time in 2021. Got up to the Cup Series full-time in 2023. This year, back to full-time in the Xfinity Series. He sits 6th in series points with 3 top 5 results in 20 starts. He's going to get double duty at Michigan this weekend, his 3rd Cup Series start in the team's number 13 Chevrolet Camaro. I would imagine with this announcement, he'll probably get more starts.
Yeah. He's, going back in that 16 car, he should have never left there to begin with.
You and I questioned that from the get-go. We were, why in the world did you move him from full-time in Cup to full-time Xfinity? What did you think you were accomplishing with that?
And you're going to move him back to the 16 car.
Yeah.
But technicality, you set your whole program back from last year to this year.
I would agree with that.
You won races last year.
You created unnecessary instability.
You did. And the flag bearer for your entire organization this year is SVG, and it was his 3 wins on road courses. He's number 1 seed in the playoffs right now. But you can't fly your flag with that and hang your hat on that hook every single week.
Yeah, because technically he's driving for Trackhouse.
Because AJ he's kind of been irrelevant this year. surprisingly irrelevant.
Yeah. And part of the reason why is because this move created unnecessary instability. And that affects the driver.
It does. It really does. Question is Hemrick going to still stay in 31 next year? Somebody else going in?
Mm-hmm.
What's happening? Because
we'll see.
There's several announcements coming up in Michigan.
Oh, yeah.
And there was one that's supposed to happen 20 minutes ago, but it got canceled, getting delayed to Daytona, and it's been labeled as a team announcement. No team specified.
Yeah. Speaking of
Who
Haas,
is it?
Speaking of the Haas factory, they were supposed to make an announcement, 30 minutes after we get done?
Yes. 10:30 Central.
This has to affect the Xfinity series.
It is the Xfinity lineup. And
for 2025, okay.
The way everybody keeps chirping, and I don't understand why, supposedly one of the seats are going to, supposedly.
Sure.
Now, let's put that in all caps. Supposedly, Sheldon Creed's taking one of the seats. Supposedly.
We'll see.
Yeah. That's all you can say is we'll see.
Time will tell. Then there's the whole charter agreement saga. I promised you we'd get back to it, and we are. Sports Business Journal reporting NASCAR Holdings has submitted the latest charter proposal to the teams. There does appear to be some movement here. Is it enough? Seemingly unlikely. Teams have been unwilling to sign so far as they seek a more equitable split of the TV revenue. According to the report, that does appear to have come more in line with what the teams were seeking. But other areas of the deals that were sticking points that the teams feel NASCAR hasn't moved enough on or even moved at all, apparently still in that situation. Exact details of this proposal not revealed, but one of them seems to be a proposal where NASCAR and the teams might start to work together on selling sponsorships for both sides. That offer, by the way, also reportedly a 7-year deal with an option for a 7-year extension after that. This would mirror, by the way, the current TV deals that they've got that begin next year with Fox, NBC, Amazon Prime, TNT Discovery, and the CW. I find the selling sponsorship cooperative effort interesting, and it certainly seems like it would benefit the teams, and it might actually benefit NASCAR as well, depending on who it is that you came forward with.
Right.
I don't know why that's a problem. That to me should be a 50-50 opportunity.
Should.
And again, whatever else is holding things up, God only knows. We'll find out. Yeah. Kurt Busch got himself into a bit of trouble. He was arrested on Wednesday in Iredell County, North Carolina, accused of driving under the influence of alcohol. DUI. Oops, not supposed to do that.
Kurt.
Busch, according to the police report, got tested on site, recorded a blood alcohol level of 0.17, more than twice the legal limit, 0.08. He's officially been charged with DUI, speeding, and reckless driving. 2004 Cup Series champion released a statement, said, quote, "I am very disappointed in myself. I apologize to my family, my racing family, and to my fans. I'll work with the authorities to rectify the situation and work with the county to make it a safer place in the future." Remember, he retired from racing just last year officially after suffering that significant concussion in a crash at Pocono in 2022, but he's still working with Legacy MC in the background as kind of a driver coach / advisor, I guess, might be the best way to put it.
Yeah, 2311 and Legacy MC.
Yeah, both of them. That's true. On a lighter note, we talk annually about the Kyle Petty charity ride. You're right. I'm sorry. I meant to say 2311, not Legacy MC.
Yeah.
My bad. But anyway, Kyle Petty charity ride does some great things, seems to garner all the press, but he's not the only one that heads a charity motorcycle ride. Rusty Wallace just pulled off the 6th annual Sturgis Buffalo Chips Rusty Wallace charity ride, sponsored by or presented by Harley Davidson. This year's ride was held Friday a week ago, my birthday. Happy birthday to me. During the annual Sturgis Motorcycle Rally, the 84th of those. I didn't realize this thing had been going 84 years.
Yeah.
That's cool.
It's crazy.
Raised almost $400,000 from the NASCAR Foundation, the Special Olympics, and a big chunk of that, $160,000, came in the auction of a custom Harley Davidson, which if you are looking right now on CRN Live on YouTube, you can see the winner of that auction sitting astride that motorcycle. The customizing was done by a group called Southern Country Customs, which happens to be owned by Rusty Wallace. Shocker. Good stuff there. So we mentioned a moment ago, Sports Business Journal is one of those sources that we trust. Then there's Jim Utter. I'm I'm going to leave that at that. Motorsport.com NASCAR writer Jim Utter can no longer claim to be Motorsport.com NASCAR writer. He also worked for the Charlotte Observer newspaper. Surprised many on Wednesday afternoon when he posted on his Twix account. By the way, for those of you that are new to the show and don't know what I mean when I say Twix, everyone likes to still say Twitter, but it's officially X, so I just smashed the two together, Twix. Posted on his Twix account that he was no longer employed by either of those entities. He posted, quote, some personal news. Last day at Motorsport. Been a crazy run between there and the Observer. Never expected to include so much NASCAR, but life is full of surprises. Hoping for another one. Time will tell what Utter will do, but hopefully it won't be in NASCAR.
Well, when your Twix...
I said that out loud, didn't I?
Yeah. And when your Twix profile, when your profile part says undeclared at this time, UNC Charlotte and UNC Greensboro grad likes OBX, Outer Banks, North Carolina, Star Wars, WWE, no, we're going to stop right there.
It was funny. I did a search. If you're watching on CRN Live, I got that picture. Not off of his profile. I think that's off of maybe the Charlotte Observer site. I can't remember where I got it. But in doing the basic search, before I just went to looking for images, pictures, I saw 2 YouTube videos talking about how they can't stand Jim Utter and how he needed to be fired. We're not the only ones that kind of question his reporting abilities, I guess might be a best way to put it. Let's go open wheel. Let's talk a little IndyCar. You want to talk about a roller coaster ride of not quite 12 months, 11 months for David Malukas. Remember last year, September of last year, David Malukas signed a deal to join Arrow McLaren Racing. And you and I said at the time, this is going to be a fantastic opportunity for David Malukas. Because Arrow McLaren Racing was certainly a step up. In preparation for this year, he went on a bike ride about a month before the 2024 season was set to begin. Unfortunately, crashed his bike. He'd injured his wrist, and the injury kept him out of the car. He missed the first 4 races of the year. And the team, citing a contract clause that said if he missed 4 races, the team could let him go, did. That allowed Arrow McLaren to go, and eventually they ended up through weird machinations with Nolan Siegel in the car, as they have now. Malukas finally recovered from the injury, got cleared by doctors to return to racing. He went to Meyer Shank Racing, and they picked him up to fill in for them. And now, for next year, he's got himself a new full-time seat for at least the next couple of years. He has signed a multi-year deal with AJ Foyt Racing. Team president Larry Foyt said, quote, David will be a great addition to AJ Foyt Racing. He's a fierce competitor who possesses a great deal of natural talent. I think David will be a super fit with our engineers and our mechanics, and he will be an important factor as we continue to ascend in the IndyCar rankings. It is important to note, because we talked about this on Cross Flags as well, AJ Foyt Racing is in the first year of a technical partnership with Team Penske, and you think that plays a critical factor in this?
I firmly believe that this sets him into a driver in waiting position. Because when you look at the roster for Team Penske, there's one that's he's getting into his latter years of his driving career. Let's word it that way.
Sure. We're not retiring willpower right now.
No, but he's getting into his latter years.
Yeah. I mean, he's in his 40s. He's in his mid-40s. He's been around for a while.
And he's been very vocal and made it no secret. His wife does deal with some health challenges. Let's word it that way.
Sure.
She's doing okay right now, but she has had her health challenges.
Yes, thankfully. And we like that report. But
we're glad that she's much better, for sure. But his time to leave the sport is going to be sooner than later.
Yeah.
So, my opinion, I'm going to say with it, everything holds serve and everything holds good with Malukas at AJ Foyt, he will probably be within that 12 car, I'm going to say, by 2027.
Okay. Yeah, because this deal runs through 2026 from what we're told.
2027.
So that's a 2-year placeholder. And I think that would probably put Will Power in a good position to where he could do everything that he can over the next couple of years and, maybe even win another title.
Yeah.
That would be a good way for him to step out gracefully from the sport. But, yeah, I think that that's probably very, very well said. But let's also look at A.J. Foyt. We've already seen with Santino Ferrucci them do a step up in their performance this year.
For sure.
And a lot of that can be, and it was kind of a slow start. We were kind of wondering when we were going to see that Team Penske affiliation start to come into play. And just before the Indy 5, right about when they came to Barber, is when we started to see them really start to begin to make that definitive improvement. And we've really noted it with Santino Ferrucci.
Sure.
Make no mistake, why Santino Ferrucci was also re-signed.
True.
So now what you have with A.J. Foyt, instead of basically us wondering on a year-to-year basis what they were going to do because they were a backmarker organization that was just kind of scraping by year after year, now we have an affiliation with Team Penske. It's showing performance-wise on the track. You keep Santino Ferrucci and you add a David Malukas.
They are swinging upwards some more.
That's a nice swing on the part of A.J. Foyt Racing and Larry Foyt, and congratulations for it, and keep that up. Because if there's one team in my mind that IndyCar needs, even though they haven't been big-time players over the last few years, the name Foyt needs to be there.
For sure.
Needs to be there.
For sure.
Agustin Canapino does not need to be here, and he won't be. We'll talk about that when we come back.
Stay right. Racing Network.
Steve West, Matt Nicholson with you here in the studios this morning, minus producer John, but that's all right. We're plugging along here, and we're talking IndyCar. And after what we talked about last week with Juncos Hollinger Racing and their release effective immediately at Agustin Canapino, they needed a new driver. Who are they going to get was our question. We were waiting on their response, and they have turned to a guy who raced for them before, Connor Daly. Team reports he's going to be the driver for them for the remainder of the 2024 season, and this does, again, mark a return for him to the team that he raced for in the IndyCar feeder series, leading him to saying, quote, "I'm extremely pleased to reunite with Ricardo Juncos after our success together on the road to Indy. This is the third team, actually, that Daly's set to drive for in IndyCar this year. The first was in the Indy 500. He drove for Dreyer and Reinbold Racing then, and that's their one race of the year, the Indy 500. He then had the chance to drive for Dale Coyne Racing, filling in for Jack Harvey, who couldn't race at Iowa due to injury and was not cleared by medical personnel to be able to do it. So he ran both of the races of that doubleheader there, and now he's going to get the chance to finish out the year with Juncos Hollinger Racing. And if I'm Connor Daly, I'm taking this as a tryout for 2025.
Sure. Yeah.
So do what you can with it, Connor.
No doubt.
In other driver news, I'm beginning to wonder if this isn't a tryout as well. Catherine Legg back in the number 51 entry for Dale Coyne with Rick Ware Racing for tonight's race at Worldwide Tech Raceway at Gateway. This marks now her fourth race in the car with the team since the Indy 500, including the Indy 500, by the way, in the Iowa doubleheader weekend. Coyne said of Legg, quote, "Catherine's done a good job for us this year on the ovals. We're happy to have her back this weekend in the 51 car. We've had success at that oval track in the past. We look forward to seeing what Catherine will do this weekend." Are they thinking about maybe doing an Ed Carpenter type of thing? One driver for all the oval track races, and then the street and road course races, they get another driver?
I don't know. You would think Legg would be more on the road and street courses, with that being her heavy background.
I would have thought so too. But
I don't know.
I guess if they think that she has an affinity for this, they'll continue to do it. We'll find out. Back to Arrow McLaren Racing. They have done a nice little poll. They have hired away former Team Penske race engineer Brian Camp. Camp set to join the team and become part of the crew for rookie Nolan Siegel, coming on board as longtime team race engineer for Robert Yu. Yu telling the organization he was going to leave at the end of the year, going to move to another team for 2025, but at this point in time, we don't know what team that is. Could they be swapping? Who knows? While NASCAR and the teams continue to haggle over a charter deal, IndyCar wants to follow NASCAR's lead and have a charter plan of their own, and in fact have submitted a second charter plan to the teams, according to Racer.com. But here's the deal on this particular proposal. The proposal is a detailed, approximately 40-page plan. The 10 most senior racing organizations are set to give feedback to Penske Entertainment, the owners of the IndyCar series, by the end of this month. But even as detailed as a 40-page draft is, this is the second quote-unquote rough draft that Penske Entertainment has sent asking for feedback. And reports state that with the feedback from this one and the first one, Penske is then going to work on the final draft that would then be sent to teams officially to see if they're willing to sign it as an agreement. The report says that some things seem to remain the same. Things like the maximum amount of 3 charters per team. We'll get back to that. 22 leaders circle prize money contracts. That will remain. That's what we're currently at. A total of 25 charters would be handed out. That seems to be the same as what we heard from the first rough draft that was handed out. And, of course, that means, like in the Cup Series, those cars would be guaranteed a starting position for each race, save for the Indy 500. And this is what you and I got to talking about when we said this at the beginning, because initially they were thinking that the 25 charters would also include the Indy 500. And we said no. What sets the Indy 500 apart from all the other races on the calendar, and it should, is that bump day would then become practically irrelevant.
It would. It would be practically irrelevant. But what do you do there? You take away the absolute lore and the history known as Indianapolis.
Exactly. I mean, just a couple of years ago, Graham Rahal was all but out of the Indy 500. could not qualify his way into it. He got a ride because a driver got injured, and he subbed in for that driver. But it wasn't in his own car.
Correct.
But he was going to miss the Indy 500 because of bump day and not having that safety net. And there's just something uber dramatic about that. And that was what you and I said. And I'm not saying that the Indy 500 or Penske Entertainment was listening, but thank you for listening to us in not including the Indy 500 in this.
Right.
That was the proper move. Each race would be capped at an entry limit of 27 racers. So if 28, 29, 31 cars came to a race other than the Indy 500, only 27 are going to start. So that creates an interesting situation. If approved for 2025, the top 25 in final points this year would be granted the charters. This also means something interesting for Chip Ganassi Racing, because Chip Ganassi's running 5 cars this year. 2 of them are going to have to go away.
Yeah.
We'll see what happens on this. Again, end of the month, get more feedback. Maybe by the end of the year, we'll know more when it comes to this whole charter deal.
I want to pivot back to NASCAR for just a second.
I was about to say, I need to do this as well. So you and I are on the same page.
I just caught something here.
Okay, so we're gonna pivot back to NASCAR for a moment. We'll start with Matt.
You remember I think it was a couple weeks ago, we talked about and it was released that they're going to now install an air mechanism to where air can inflate shocks on a car. So if a car gets beached with flat tires, they're able to go.
Yeah.
Bob Parker's social media account, he has officially released a photo of where said air mechanism is going to be.
Okay.
It is now coming up on the CRN Live. When it comes up, look real carefully where that mechanism is.
Okay, I'm on a little bit of a delay here, so I'm waiting for it to come up.
It's coming.
This situation is interesting because they needed to do something to be able to figure out how to get these cars running, but they're putting it there.
There.
All right. For those of you who are not watching on CRN Live,
they're putting the air mechanism basically centered over where the numbers are behind the A post.
Yeah, in front of the driver.
On the left-hand side of the car. And what part of the car do they try to get downforce off of? The left-hand side. Somebody is about to get really, really, really cute here, and there's going to be rule circumvention, and yeah, let's just leave it at that.
Wow. Yeah, I was not expecting there.
No, I was expecting somewhere on the rear.
I was too. I was thinking somewhere on the back bumper cover panel.
Yeah, out of the way of where the air can be manipulated. The air cannot be manipulated back there. The air can be easily manipulated right there, and then some.
The only thing that I can think of as to why they put it there is that they wanted to have it somewhere in and around the middle of the car to where it could affect all 4 tires.
Sure, but here's a genius idea, NASCAR. Why don't you do this right here? You take away, when you know the circumstance is this right here, you take away the penalty of if the window net drops, you're out of the race. You take that away and you determine if the car is eligible to continue or not. Drop the window net, you put the valve on the inside of the car, inflate it there.
Yeah, wouldn't affect the air at all. Yeah. I see where you're going with that.
It would not affect the air whatsoever.
Yeah, because you can always put the window net back up.
Exactly. You can put the window net right back up.
You know, while they're working on the car, allow one person to go over the wall, service the driver, giving them a drink, and putting the window net back up.
Yeah, but this is supposed to be where NASCAR inflates it, or the safety workers inflate it to where they can drive back.
Well, I see that, but I'm saying, well, once the NASCAR guy who undoes the air hose gets the heck out of the way, you allow an extra man over the wall only to give a drink to the driver and put the window net up.
Yeah.
That's it. That's all they do. Once they're done with that, get back over the wall.
It's about to get cute with this right here. That's where it holds.
It's about to get really weird is where it's about to be. And I also noted that I missed on giving you guys the updated standings after the points penalty that was handed out to Austin Cindric. Now, we know we went from 13 winners back down to 12. Those are all in. 4 drivers that are in right now on points are Martin Truex Jr., Ty Gibbs, Bubba Wallace, and Chris Buescher. Now, Martin Truex Jr. is in pretty good shape, 662 to 584 over the cut line. Ty Gibbs a little bit worse off, 602 to 584. That's 18 points over the cutoff. So 14th place up for grabs. 15th place is Bubba Wallace. He's only 3 points above the cutoff. And then you got 2 drivers, Chris Buescher and Ross Chastain, technically tied at 584 points. Chris Buescher wins on the tiebreaker, so Ross Chastain is on the outside looking in. And because I'm only covering those who are within 100 points below, Chase Briscoe still sits there 18th in points, but he's 99 back. And you want to talk about needing a Hail Mary. Ladies and gentlemen, I present to you not Austin Dillon, Chase Briscoe. So, yeah, that's the new situation. After the penalty, we will see what happens. Let's turn our attention now to Formula One. Somebody over at Red Bull's not going to be happy at the end of this year.
Nope.
Except for Max Verstappen. Max Verstappen's always happy, and let's face it, he's the points leader, likely will be the F1 champion again if things continue as they are now. So he'll be fine. He's got to ride. Then we play musical chairs, where 4 drivers are vying for 3 seats at Red Bull and V-Carb. So, yeah, when the music stops, somebody's going to be still standing up. Let's talk about him. Sergio Perez went into the summer break under pressure for his relative lack of performance, especially in comparison to Verstappen. Some have wondered if he was going to be replaced during the break. We talked about this last week. Helmut Marko, Red Bull's advisor, and team principal Christian Horner said that Sergio Perez will remain in the car with Red Bull the rest of this year. That meant a couple of different things. Number one, no promotion for either Daniel Ricciardo or Yuki Tsunoda. It also meant no bringing up development driver Liam Lawson to either Red Bull or V-Carb either. And everybody under the sun that is familiar with Liam Lawson has said this kid is ready to move into Formula One.
Yeah.
Probably actually was ready last year.
Yeah.
But if you remember, last year was one of those weird years where nobody moved in the off season.
Mm-hmm.
Now this year, starting with, as we know, Sir Lewis Hamilton announcing the preseason move that this was going to be his last year with Mercedes, who's going to Ferrari, we've seen a whole bunch of driver movement.
Yep.
And we still got a long way to go on that front. Liam Lawson is still under consideration for a move up to F1. Helmut Marko himself said, quote, "It's a tough time for somebody like Liam, especially as he jumped into the car under very, very difficult circumstances, did very well last year. We rate him high. He will get his chance. Just wait. September, you'll have your answer." Notice he didn't say when in September.
True.
Could be late September.
True.
So we don't know. In talking with ESPN, Marko continued, quote, "Daniel was put in the car, and if he would have been significantly faster than Yuki, there was an idea to bring him back to Red Bull Racing. He has also had this up and down form, so far he didn't fulfill the criteria to be a Red Bull Racing driver." As far as Perez is concerned, Marko said, quote, "We believe that we can turn it around and make it a more stable situation for him. To be teammate to Max Verstappen's not the nicest thing in Formula One. Checo has his merits. He's won races. Our discussion was not just about drivers. It was regular discussions that we've had of what can we do to improve our situation? What can we do to make the car better?" I don't know. I mean, whatever's going on over there, what we know is this. Mm-hmm. Max Verstappen far outshines anybody else running for Red Bull or V-Carb.
That's an understatement.
Max Verstappen's here. Everybody else is here or lower.
Mm-hmm.
We can't base it upon judging us against Max Verstappen. We have to judge Red Bull's performance based upon what can Sergio Perez do? Is he capable of doing more? We think yes. He's done some, I mean, and all drivers are guilty of this at one time or another. He's done some stuff that we look at and go, really, Sergio? You did that?
Yeah.
But Daniel Ricciardo's been guilty of that. Yuki Tsunoda's been guilty of that. Liam Lawson will be guilty of it because here's the deal. Everybody's got to be a rookie at some point in time, and those rookie mistakes will come back and bite you in the butt, especially on a big stage like this. Liam Lawson will make them. Can he overcome them and keep his confidence and then do what everyone thinks that he's going to do in the promised world of Formula One.
Yeah.
Where will his chance be? We shall find out.
Yep.
Thinking about heading to Las Vegas for the second annual Las Vegas Grand Prix?
Nope.
Huh? There's even a little bit more for you to do if you're going. Race officials are offering, get this, free. We don't get to talk about that much when it comes to Formula One. Free tickets to a fan festival set to take place on the Strip during that weekend. Comes on the heels of complaints. Get this. This, ladies and gentlemen, is Las Vegas. Look it up if you're unfamiliar with the city. Apparently last year, people that went to the race felt like there wasn't enough entertainment when it came to their options surrounding the race.
Well, when you have to shut down the largest part of the city of Las Vegas, where probably 95% of the entertainment is to hold the race, 2 + 2 does equal 4.
But here's the thing. If you can't find something to do in Las Vegas, you ain't looking.
You are correct.
FanFest is set to feature driver appearances from both F1 and F1 Academy drivers and team members. It'll include some driver Q&A sessions. There will also be show cars on display so fans can get an up-close and personal look at the machines, or at least the ones without an engine in it. Live entertainment, read music. Local food trucks are going to be there as well to offer up food. The festival itself will take place near Turn 12, where it turns onto the Las Vegas Strip. If you want tickets, you might have already missed out on them. They're being doled out on a first-come, first-served basis at f1lasvegasgp.com/fan experience.
Well,
when it comes to buying the tickets to the Formula One race in Las Vegas, second, maybe third mortgage.
yeah.
Just saying.
Yeah.
What's going on here with Porsche? I've been talking about getting into Formula One, right? Maybe not anymore. Details next.
We will be right back with more on the Championship Racing Network.
talking Formula One, but we're about to wrap up that conversation with the deal about Porsche. With their failed attempt to join up with Red Bull, Porsche, which had been approved for another foray into Formula One by their parent company, Volkswagen, has apparently decided we're not even going to try and continue that effort anymore.
Yeah.
Porsche Motorsport head Tom Laudenbach told, he's called this, quote, a closed chapter, unquote, that might have put them back in the series after more than 30 years of getting out of it. You might remember back in 1991, they were making engines for a team called Footwork. You obviously didn't go very far. No. And so they got out of it, and they got to talking about it again. And when they got the approval from Volkswagen, along with Audi, to start exploring getting into Formula One, Porsche zeroed in on Red Bull. And what they were hoping was going to become, on the surface at least, something similar to what Audi's deal with Sauber initially was going to be, which was kind of this 50-50 split. Actually turns in Audi's going to become the primary owner and operator of that team. Porsche, again, on the other hand, wanted to start as a Red Bull engine supplier and work up to about a 50-50 stake in the entire F1 organization, which would include what we now call VCARB. As of September of 2022, Porsche officials were still talking very positively about the idea. They called it a, quote, attractive entertainment option, or attractive environment option. But just under 2 years later, that tone's changed. Laudenbach says that F1 is, quote, not a topic for us, unquote. He added this, quote, it is off the table. Right now, F1, not a task for us. And we are not spending any energy on that. We are only focused on what we do right now. And if you look at it, we have many different activities. We're well occupied and extremely happy with what we do. Laudenbach also seemed quite happy with what the legendary German automaker is being involved in motorsport-wise. He said, quote, we are engaged in customer racing from track days to GT4, one make series up to professional GT racing and GT3. On top of that, we're racing in the two most important endurance series, the World Endurance Championship and the IMSA Sports Car Championship with the 963 LMDH hybrid. With our partner, Penske. The third part, since electrification of our brand's very important, okay, so is our engagement in Formula E, which is the only full electric racing series on a high level. I think we're really well served. Somewhere down the line, he got asked about this. And again, we've talked about this. Yeah. No, they're not interchangeable.
Right.
But there are a lot of similarities between the engine package that Formula One currently uses and the engine package that Indycar uses. Both of them V6s, both of them twin turbos, both of them now hybrid. A lot of similarities, right? Any thought about joining Indycar as an engine supplier? Nope. No serious talks with the series at all. Okay. To me,
you're missing.
To me, if I'm Penske Entertainment, I'm looking at this and going, you are going down this road of setting yourself up to be an engine supplier. How far down the road did you get?
Not very far.
And if you got far enough, would you be willing to alter the engine enough to go from, I think it's 1.6 liters in Formula One to
2.2.
Would you be willing to do it?
It wouldn't take much.
Not much. If I'm Penske Entertainment, I'm making a call. What's the worst they're going to tell you? No, 9, click. Okay, whatever. Find out. Go see. Headline caught my attention this week. Asking whether a Formula One operation could be amongst the most valued sports teams or organizations in the world. Forbes every year, Forbes magazine does a ranking of the most valuable sports franchises in the world. And to be honest, it is dominated by the National Football League franchises. Not necessarily based upon their overall success. Witness the most valued sports team on the planet. As of 2023, I present to you the most valuable team on the world. The Dallas Cowboys. When was the last time the Cowboys won anything? It's been 28 years since they were even in the NFC title game, much less the Super Bowl. In at number 2, the New York Yankees. Last time they won anything? 2009. Cowboys are worth $9 billion. The Yankees, according to this, worth $7.1 billion. In at number 3, a little bit of a surprise. Golden State Warriors from the National Basketball Association. They come in at number 3, New England Patriots at $7 billion as well. They're 4. LA Rams, $6.9 billion in at number 5. 2 more NFL franchises for those of you around the world who aren't sure. More NFL teams filled out the top 10. New York Giants, Chicago Bears, Las Vegas Raiders. Then you got still can't hardly get used to Las Vegas Raiders. New York Knicks of the NBA in at number 9, and then the New York Jets in at number 10, proving, again, you don't have to win squat to be a very valuable franchise. I present to you the just end the season New York Jets. No, I'm not biased at all. European soccer franchise Real Madrid leads the way with number 11, value of just over $6 billion. Top 50 sports teams around the world list, dominated by the NFL, Major League Baseball, the NBA, European soccer teams. But as you start to slide down, you start to see other things coming in. Notably, not the NHL, not Major League Soccer, Formula One. That's why we're talking about it on a racing show. Showing it at number 45, Scuderia Ferrari. Valued at $3.9 billion. An increase in the last 4 years of 189% in overall value. Jumps them into the top 50 after not being ranked there before. In at number 47, Mercedes. Valued at $3.8 billion, and a 4-year increase in their value of 274%, charging into the top 50 from well outside. It's going to be very interesting to see the 2024 rankings. We'll keep an eye on it. The two F1 operations are valued higher than teams like the National Football League's Arizona Cardinals, Major League Baseball's San Francisco Giants, and the National Football League's Buffalo Bills, and just under the valued rankings of teams like the Jacksonville Jaguars and New Orleans Saints of the NFL, and the defending NBA champion Boston Celtics.
Well,
pretty interesting company, don't you think?
I'm surprised Red Bull's not up there.
That's what I was about to say. Notice who's missing. Red Bull. We'll see whether or not they jump into the rankings or not.
Yeah.
To Formula E, where Andretti Global, which we talked about last week, letting Norman Nato go after only 1 year with the team, announced that they were going to replace him on Monday of this week. They were good on it. They promised they were going to do it, and they signed Nico Muller. Muller drove for Andretti in Season 5, so he marks his return to the organization. He'll partner with Jake Dennis in the upcoming 11th season. Muller drove for ABT Cooper last year, finished strong in a relatively weak entry, claimed 4 top 6 finishes in a row to end the year, marked his best finish in the final points in his career to date, 12th overall. More importantly, he vastly outperformed his ABT Cooper teammate, who's no less than former Formula E champion Lucas de Grassi. Muller's a Formula E veteran of 46 races, 1 podium finish, which came in Season 7. He's also claimed 2 fastest lap of the race awards and has led 7 total laps. He's hoping to improve upon that. He's also been an Audi team driver who has been in the hunt for the 2019 and 2020 DTM Series championships, has a class win in the 24 Hours Le Mans from 2015. He joins Andretti kind of as a team in flux. They scored 1 win and 1 pole, both by returning Jake Dennis, 5 podium finishes on the way to claiming 5th in the season standings. But again, Norman Nato comes in, and he's out after only 1 year.
Yeah.
To the Xfinity Series, where 3 drivers going to get a chance to race in the Xfinity Series for the first time. 2 of them debuting this weekend at Michigan. 1 gets a chance a little bit later on this year. We'll start off with Morgan Baird. Morgan Baird's going to drive the 53 Ford for Joey Gase Motorsports. He knows the track. He's raced there in the ARCA Series since 2016, and a Michigander himself, Alro Metal Outlets, is on the hood. Knowing the track is one thing. Joey Gase Motorsports in the 53 car?
That's another.
There you go.
Because he DNQ'd.
Aha. AM Racing, still reeling after having let Haley Deegan go before the Chicago Street Course race, is putting Craftsman Truck Series regular Lawless Allen in the number 15 Ford today as we are live at Michigan. Allen is in the middle of his 3rd year full-time in the Truck Series, running for Rayom Brothers this year. He's got Auto Charge It as a primary sponsor for him on the race. How is he going to start on this particular weekend?
Lawless Allen will be starting 15th.
Okay, mid-pack, a little bit ahead of mid-pack. We'll have to see how good he does. Could be something there.
It's really sad that the current package that the Xfinity cars run at Michigan versus what the simulation of iRacing is that pathetic, because I ran one last night and was 2.7 seconds faster taking the pole.
Okay.
Yeah.
Then you got Alpha Prime Racing. They've announced Brad Perez is going to get a chance to drive the number 45 entry. Not this weekend. He'll be driving for him at Kansas later on this year. This will mark his debut on an intermediate track. He has 9 Xfinity Series starts to his credit, but all of them are on road courses to date. 3 top 20 finishes. Best finish of 18th came earlier this year at COTA. He has 1 NASCAR top-level start on a 1.5-mile oval when he ran for Young's Motorsports, claiming 24th at Homestead Miami Speedway. So we'll have to see how good he does. I get the funny feeling this is something of a tryout for him as well.
Brad should be okay.
Yeah, I would think so.
Should be.
And for those of you who have a crush on Natalie Decker, sorry, number 1, she's already off the market. We've already told you about that. Number 2, she's pregnant.
She's really off the market now.
Yeah. They announced this week Natalie Decker and her husband, Derek Lemke, who's a part-time NASCAR driver himself. They're expecting their first child. The couple who got married in Wisconsin after the 2023 season posted on Twix. Natalie did, quote, "a little bit of heaven sent down from earth, making our little dream come true." Somebody's dream who went south for reasons we don't know is Bruce Schlicker. He's announced he's leaving Calic Racing. Now, effective immediately. He left Shane Van Gisbergen without a crew chief on the number 97 car heading into this weekend in Michigan. Calic Racing said, quote, "out of respect to Bruce," unquote, they would not comment on his departure. Said that Kevin Walter is set to call the shots for SVG this weekend, maybe a bit longer.
On the Decker part, 1, good for them. Congrats to both of them.
Sure.
Secondly, that explains why she's not been in the car lately.
Yeah.
3, at least we know we're not going to have a rolling roadblock in some races.
And then there's that.
Yeah.
By the way, for those of you that are trying to figure Derek Lemke out, I did call him a part-time NASCAR driver. He has raced a few races in the Craftsman Truck Series. I can't remember the last time he was in one, though.
Last year. He drove for Rayon last year at Richmond, if I'm not mistaken.
All right.
But he's mainly a late model competitor in the Carolinas.
Yeah. So we'll see what this does to their plans for the racing future. We shall see. And again, in about 30-ish minutes or so at Michigan, Haas factory team is set to announce their driver lineup. We'll have details coming up for you during Crossed Flags, which we are going to do on Wednesday. It's going to be a little bit earlier this week, too. Those of you who have been used to us doing this right about 2:30, 3 o'clock in the afternoon and getting it up generally by about 4 o'clock, 4:30 on Wednesday afternoons, it should now be up by 1, 2 o'clock at the latest, because we are changing producers. Not necessarily our choice, mind you. We like Molly. Molly's still a good person, and Molly will fill in on occasion. But Carrie Adams is going to take over as our new regular producer on a weekly basis. And it just allows us to shift a little bit earlier because the studio that we do the podcast in has started to get ready to gear up for college football season, and those start to take over the spot that we had taken. So we're still going to be on Wednesday, maybe a little bit earlier. So make sure that you check it out. Go to CRN Live on YouTube. Please subscribe there. We're up to 106. We appreciate you out doing that. We want to see 110 very soon.
Yeah, no doubt.
Yeah, we'd love to see 110 in fairly quick order, and we would appreciate it. And again, Cross Flags is just a part of that. That'll be on Wednesday, and of course, we'll be back here next Saturday morning. All 3 of us? I don't know. Certainly 2 of us, because I don't think you've got anything conflicting next Saturday.
No, I should be okay all the way through September the 7th.
Okay. I will also ask, and this is somewhat self-serving, but I'm going to go ahead and ask it anyway. Those of you who are the praying type, Monday, I get to go to Atlanta. I'm going to be at Piedmont Hospital, where I am doing what my wife loves to call a roto-rooter situation. We've been making fun of it. For those of you that don't know, 2021, I had triple bypass surgery, and everything was done on the left side of my heart. They found a blockage on the right side, and they tried to clear it out a few weeks ago. Weren't able to get it entirely done. We're going to the doctor who pioneered the procedure of clearing out blockages. So we're going to go and get under the knife and get the roto-rooter from him and see if it works out better. That's Monday morning.
You say that, and I can hear Karen West's voice saying that in my brain.
Yeah. She says it with a smile, too.
You get a roto-rooter, Steve? Just like
At this point in time, I've done it a couple of times. I'm used to it. I know it. But at the same point in time, still, it's a hospital procedure where people are invading your body.
the good part about it, you'll get a really good nap.
I'll get a really good nap, and I'll come out of it looking like I went 5 rounds with Mike Tyson. That'll be fun. Y'all have a great week. We'll talk to you Wednesday and then again next Saturday. Until then, have fun. Thank you very much. Find somebody to subscribe to CRN Live if you haven't already on YouTube.
Do it.
And we'll talk to you Wednesday and next Saturday.
See ya.
This has been a presentation of the Championship Racing Network.
WDNG 1450 AM
And W236 CQ 95.1 FM. Anniston.
95.1 The Mountain.
Anniston Oxford's classic